Assalamu alaikum. If you struggle with procrastination when it comes to fitness or in any other area of your life, then this video is for you, where inshallah we're going to talk about the 5 different types of procrastination and how to overcome them with my simple 3-step process. So inshallah, I'm really pumped up for this video. So bismillah, let's get into it. So let's just talk about procrastination, right? Like whether you're procrastinating on getting started with your fitness, you've been telling yourself for years or months or whatever, and you haven't gotten back on point with it. Maybe you're procrastinating when it comes to your Deen and you tend to pray your prayers late, or you pray them towards the end of the prayer window. And maybe throughout your life, you're hitting snooze on the alarm clock. Maybe within your business or your work, it takes you forever to get things done. And you end up having days where you feel like you work all day, but you look back and you really didn't get much done. You just kind of were going through the motions doing stuff, but don't really have much to show for it. And there's people who even procrastinate on getting married. You have people who are single in their 30s, 40s, and beyond because they procrastinate on getting married. And you may not be procrastinating in every area of your life, but procrastination tends to become a little bit of an identity. And for a lot of us, it starts in school. We tend to like cram before the exam, and then before we know it, we're an adult. And sometimes we procrastinate, sometimes we don't. But I've found that one of the biggest problems that a lot of Muslims have within their fitness journey is procrastinating. So we're going to talk about all 5 different types. I have them noted here so I don't miss anything. So definitely stay tuned. This video is going to be amazing, inshallah. So the first type of procrastination is when people are scared of hard work, okay? Now, I know this sounds a little crazy because you're like, hey, I'm not scared of hard work. I work really hard. I work harder than anybody, right? But I'm telling you right now, like, a lot of people underestimate how much they actually need to work on their work ethic. And you might not be scared of hard work in some areas of your life, but you may have other areas where you are afraid. Let's just talk about fitness, right? A lot of people think, oh, fitness is going to be so hard. I have to sacrifice all this. It's going to be so hard. I don't like working out. It's going to be sore, blah, blah, blah. And so that's the reason why people procrastinate, is they're just afraid of pain. And the most simple solution for this is simply to just realize that the pain of staying the same is far greater than the pain of taking action. And we talk about this a lot, but it's the whole like reason versus resistance paradigm, where if your reason is greater than your resistance, that's when you'll take action. But if your resistance is greater than your reason, then you're not going to take action. So, when it comes to fitness, let's say that your idea of fitness is, oh, I have to cut out carbs. Oh, I have to like eat boring, bland food. I'm not even allowed to add salt to my food, blah, blah, blah. Then obviously your resistance is very high. But obviously, if you watch my stuff, you probably already know that, one of the most important parts of building a sustainable meal plan for yourself is making sure the food tastes good and includes foods you like, and that carbs are actually good for your metabolism. And 90%, I would say as high as 95% of people actually get better results as far as fat loss and muscle growth by including complex carbohydrates in their diet in significant quantities. And that's going to reduce the crazy cravings you have, and it's going to give you more flexibility with your cheat meals to be able to go crazy with the biryani, the carbs, the whatever else you want to eat at like a family gathering or restaurant or whatever, right? So that's the first step, is reducing the resistance, saying, hey, you don't actually have to work out for 3 hours a day. You could work out for as little as 10 minutes a day if like that's all you have, but you're better than that. We could do 30, 45, for some people they even work up to being able to do 60 minutes a day of working out. But again, you got to start where you need to start, but anything is better than nothing. And I think too many people, because they either try to go too full on from the beginning, they end up procrastinating because they just make this giant mountain in their mind. They get into momentum with procrastination, which is one of the other 5 types, and it just becomes a downward spiral. But the best thing you could do is just baby step yourself if you're in a position where the resistance you feel is so great, and that's one of the things that stops you from getting started, is just make little baby steps. And obviously understand, like I always say, if you've got money, just hire us to do this for you. But if you don't have money, but you have a lot of time, then just watch all my free stuff and learn how to do this for yourself. But again, if you have money, you probably don't have a whole lot of time because you're working a lot. So it makes more sense economically to just hire a professional who has done this for hundreds of other people to do it for you. So anyways, but yeah, regardless of whether you become a client or you just go through my free stuff, you're going to learn how to do this in a much easier way, which is going to reduce the resistance. But the next step is to increase the reason, right? Because like a lot of people, they kind of just sit around and minimize. Like I've had conversations with people who weigh close to 300 pounds who are like, yeah, I might probably die, whatever, I have diabetes, whatever, and they just giggle it off like it's not a big deal. Are you kidding me? You're 29 and you have diabetes? What's wrong with you? You're 40 and your father had a heart attack in his 40s and you have high cholesterol and you're laughing it off? I'm trying to be respectful here, but that is not an intelligent way to view your life. You need to actually evaluate what are the, like if you've never considered the potential ramifications if you keep going the way that you're going, and look at the cold, hard, painful reality of that, then you got to have a wake-up call. Because I'm telling you right now, like, we always talk about qadr, right? And so obviously, we all have our time that we're supposed to go, but is your qadr just to demolish the body that Allah gave you and disrespect it by eating a bunch of junk and throwing yourself into diseases like heart disease, cholesterol issues, diabetes, and oh, I take meds. Okay, well, great. Why are you taking meds in your 20s and 30s? Like, The only time you should be taking cholesterol meds is if you did everything you could to like eat healthy, work out, all that stuff, but you still made it to your 60s and maybe you just genetically had high blood pressure, cholesterol, whatever it is, and then you could take meds. But if you're in your 40s, your 50s, or your 30s, and you're taking medication for and you're eating junk food, and you could easily solve that problem by fixing your nutrition, which is going to give you a host of other benefits, including weight loss, more energy, better quality of life, become a better Muslim, be more disciplined in your mindset, everything else that you're going to gain from actually being healthy and fit and just happier, healthier, and be a better Muslim. Do it for the sake of Allah, and it becomes an act of ibadah. You know, there's so many things like why are you taking meds to mask a problem? So many people, they're like, oh yeah, well I had high cholesterol, but I started taking meds. Dude, you're 40. How can you be taking meds when you're 40? Like, meds, you should just take meds if you like did everything you could, and then genetically you got it when you were like 60, but at least you're still healthy and lean and energy and all that stuff, and you just happen to have high cholesterol. Like, that's the only case where I would advocate for you taking medication. But if you're taking medication for something you could prevent by just fixing your nutrition and not being lazy, you gotta have a wake-up call. So that's the biggest thing, is stop minimizing. Okay, a lot of people, they minimize, right? I have conversations with people all the time who are like, yeah, you know, I've got high A1C, I've got diabetes, but whatever. And it's just like, dude, you can't laugh that off. If you find yourself laughing off something serious like that, I get it. It feels good to kind of take it light and not, you know, and be lighthearted. And I enjoy being lighthearted as well. But what I notice with myself is that if I'm too lighthearted about serious issues in my life, then I end up just allowing myself to procrastinate on fixing that issue, and it just gets worse. It doesn't get better on its own. It gets worse on its own. If you just let that issue stagnate, it's going to get worse. You have to take proactive action to fix that issue. It's kind of like, imagine if you were drinking alcohol and not praying and all this other stuff. You think it's just going to magically fix itself. No, you got to put in the effort to cut out the people who might be influencing you to drink. And you have to surround yourself with people who are going to get you to pray and not drink and like actually be a good Muslim, because it's probably not going to happen on its own. Of course, there's always divine intervention that happens in a minority of cases, but in a majority of cases, people baby step themselves off their deen, only spend the rest of their life, unless they have a wake-up call and they're real with themselves and they say, you know what, all this haram is not making me happy. What would actually make me happy is being connected with Allah, and that's when they finally come around and change, and they drop all the haram, you know, bad habits and all that stuff. And I always use that example because you know, it's beautiful, because in Islam we all know that we're accountable to Allah on the Day of Judgment for our decisions that Allah gave us free will to make, regarding like resisting the temptations of shaitan and different haram things that shaitan tries to tempt us with in the dunya, especially in the Western world. So we all understand that we're accountable to make the right decisions there despite feeling a certain temptation. But when it comes to food, people are just like, it's okay to just eat all this junk food and be super overweight and have health issues, but it's just qadr that I'm going to die from a heart attack when I'm 40. It's just qadr. No, you can't blame qadr for this, okay? Yes, Allah has decreed everything that's going to happen. If you're watching this video right now, did Allah write for you to watch this video, waste your time, me waste my time, my breath trying to teach you this stuff, and then you still go and die from a heart attack when you're 40? Or was your qadr to be going down this path, and then Allah used me as a means to create that divine intervention for you to be inspired to finally have that wake-up call and stop procrastinating and go take action on your goals? That's the cold hard wake-up call that you need, and that so many people need. And I hope that you share this video with other people who need this, who would benefit from this, because that is the thing that's going to give you good deeds for sharing this with somebody who needs to hear this and have that wake-up call and stop minimizing and just laughing off their problems. Now, that's like on the health level, and that's like the strongest reason to like obviously break out of these bad habits. But let's say that, you know, maybe you don't have diabetes, heart disease, whatever, alhamdulillah, but you struggle with your energy levels and you need like 10 coffees a day to make it through a day of work. Well, how long are you going to allow yourself to continue going down this path? And in a theoretical world where you never fix this, what does that look like inside of your life? Like, imagine if you spent the rest of your life needing to abuse caffeine just to be able to function. It's not how you're supposed to live, man. Like, you're supposed to have energy, and especially if you're in like your 30s, you're still in the prime of your life. Even in your 40s, you should have energy. You see people in their 50s, 60s, 70s who have tons of energy, don't even use caffeine. I have a client who's 49, doesn't use caffeine at all, and he works 14 to 16 hour days, mashallah. You know why? Because he's got this, and because he's gotten himself healthy, and because he looks after himself so that he's able to perform his best. And you know what? MashaAllah, may Allah reward him and bless him and use him as an inspiration for everybody else. And that was his biggest motivation to want to get started with us, is that he wants to inspire his kids and his family and be that leader, subhanAllah. And his reason was greater than his resistance, because working 16 hours a day, of course, that's a lot of resistance. That's a significant time constraint. But you know what? He didn't say, yeah, whatever, I'll procrastinate. I'll wait till I don't have to work so much, whatever, blah, 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 ha, 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 ha. No, he said, hey, you know what? I'm tired of not being the role model my kids need. I want to inspire my kids. So despite the fact that I work 16 hours a day, despite the fact that I travel every single week, and this is hard, it's hard to meal prep, it's hard to find healthy options. I only eat halal, and there isn't halal, protein options available everywhere. there aren't gyms available everywhere, but give me a hotel room workout to do. Give me something, because I'm committed to taking action because my reason is greater than my resistance. That's the psychology you need to be successful. Even if you're 49, have 3 kids, and work 16 hours a day, like my client who I'm speaking of right now, whose name I'm going to keep confidential unless he gives me permission to share it, inshallah, soon. So I'm working on him. I'm working on the guys in their 40s. But I have a couple of testimonials, like Naveed Musa, 47, man. He said it in his testimonial on my Instagram page. It's all up here. You think, oh, this guy Munir, he's only 28. What can he tell me? Dude, I've got plenty of clients in their 40s who work 80 hours a week and have 3, 4 kids who are still crushing it because it's all up here. And so listen to him. Don't even listen to me. Listen to him. 47, still crushing it. And that's part of the solution. We're going to talk about solutions, but I still want to talk about the 5 types of procrastination. But a big part of this is putting the right people in your environment. I kind of alluded to this when I was talking about, like, hey, if you're trying to become a better Muslim, but right now you're not praying, you're drinking alcohol, whatever else, well, astaghfirullah, but surround yourself with the right Muslims. Like, I'm not going to judge you. The right Muslims are not going to judge you, but they're going to inspire you to come to a higher standard. Like, for me, there was a couple weeks in the summer where I didn't go to Fajr at the masjid because, it was hard because Isha was late, Fajr was early. And when I started coming back to Fajr, the sheikh was like, hey, man, where you been? Like, he wasn't just like, oh, I'm so glad that you made it, where his standard was like down here, like, wow, mashallah, you made it to Fajr. No, his standard is here, like, hey, man, I made it to Fajr every single day, leading the prayer during the summer at 4 a.m. Where were you? The sheikh held me to a higher standard than average people in his society, because most people are like, wow, mashallah, you make it to Fajr at the masjid, so impressive, so impressive. But you know what the sheikh said? The sheikh said, man, I haven't seen you in a couple weeks. I saw you for the first couple months of this year, but I haven't seen you in a couple weeks. What's going on, man? I'm holding you to a higher standard. And that's who you want to surround yourself with, is people who hold you to a higher standard. So because the sheikh held me to a higher standard, he's somebody who I want in my life. Why? Because he brings me closer to Allah. Because he holds me to a higher standard than the people I was hanging out with last year who are non-Muslim, doing haram things, astaghfirullah, not praying because they're obviously not Muslim. Like, when I was hanging out with those types of people primarily last year, my life was very different. My iman was, astaghfirullah, almost non-existent. I mean, I've always had, that ember of iman, but the burning passion of iman that, alhamdulillah, I've been able to cultivate today is largely a product of my environment, surrounding myself with my parents who, mashallah, they're good Muslims, as opposed to avoiding my parents and hanging out with a bunch of, like, sinners and disbelievers. No, I refuse to hang out with negative people anymore. And those people were positive in their own way for non-Muslims, but I refuse to hang out with people who are negative influence. I've even cut out Muslims who refused to come back on the Deen. I invited them to come to the masjid. Some of them did, some of them didn't. And the ones who were still committing haram, I decided to cut them out because I can't risk having those people in my life, because the people in your life are going to have an influence on you. So out of the people in your life too, are they procrastinators too? Because that's another thing that's going to influence you and help you to become a procrastinator. But we want to not become a procrastinator. So you want to surround yourself with people who are action takers instead of procrastinators, who are help you be an action taker too instead of being a procrastinator. So that's one of the types of procrastination, somebody who's scared of hard work. And I tied it in with a couple other things, like big in momentum with procrastination. So if you've been procrastinating for a very long time, like your whole life, that's part of what's causing you to procrastinate right now, is you're in this momentum with it. So we have to break that momentum and put you in a momentum of being an action taker instead of a procrastinator. And putting yourself in the right environment helps massively with this. By the way, if you hear background noise, it's raining outside. SubhanAllah. It's amazing. I live in San Diego, which is a desert. So it's a very big, positive blessing, alhamdulillah, when it rains, because when it rains in the desert, it's considered a blessing. So it's exciting. Free car wash too. So anyways, back to the 5 types. So scared of hard work, jaded from past attempts. So maybe, and this ties in, like these all tie in with each other. Everything always ties in with everything, right? But let's say that, like, the last time that you tried to get fit, the diet was way too hard. You, like, had to cut out carbs. You worked with a coach who, like, put you on 1,300 calories a day and made you miserable. Then you probably have a bad taste in your mouth, no pun intended. Or they put you on bland food. That's where the pun is intended, is you had a bad taste in your mouth from the last time you tried to get fit. So this time needs to be different. You need to actually do it in a better way. Or maybe you tried to start a business before. Or maybe you tried to scale your business before. Or maybe you hired a certain, mentor or staff member in your business. Or maybe you tried to get married before. Or maybe you tried being on your Deen before. But in any of those areas, you burned yourself out. Maybe you failed in the business venture or the hire or whatever. And now you're afraid to hire somebody in that same role in your business because you have PTSD from the last person who screwed up, right? Maybe you tried to get married before and you got your heart broken. So now you're procrastinating on getting married again because you're afraid. You feel jaded from your past attempt and you feel afraid of the consequences, right? Maybe you tried to get fit before and the diet sucked, the training plan sucked, you were sore all the time, you weren't even getting results, you were frustrated, and you didn't have the patience to stick it through or problem solve or work with somebody better, right? So now you have a jadedness in your heart, which is causing you to procrastinate. And likewise, I can't remember the other analogy I used. I think it was like, with your Deen. Maybe before you're on point with your Deen, but you're making dua, but then shaitan babysat you and said, oh, Allah hasn't answered your dua yet. Oh, why are you believing? Like, shaitan is like, he plays off the stupidest part of our brain, yet sometimes we fall for it, where like Shaitan will say the stupidest thing, like, oh, your dua wasn't immediately answered, must be false, must not work, maybe God hates you. Like Shaitan will put the stupidest ideas in your head, and when you say them out loud like that, like, oh, your dua wasn't immediately answered, God must hate you, well, obviously that's a stupid thing to believe. Yet so many of us allow Shaitan to manipulate us into thinking that. So don't worry, even if your dua has taken years to be answered, remember, there are 3 times your dua will be answered. Either it will be answered in this life, it'll be answered in the hereafter, or instead of the dua being answered, something of equal, magnitude, whether being forgiven for certain sins or being given equal blessings in another area of life, will happen instead. And actually, I was listening to a lecture where the sheikh was talking about how Allah is shy to not answer your dua. But remember, sometimes those duas are answered in the hereafter, so you got to be patient. And that's the funny thing is, procrastination, it's a very interesting dynamic. I'm going to go into a little bit of a tangent, but like, we live in an instant gratification society where we want everything to happen right now, yet we're not willing to take action right now. We procrastinate on taking action, so we're patient in that sense, where we delay taking action on something, but then we get mad when our results are delayed. But it's like, actually, reality is the opposite. The reality is you have to put in action right now, and you have to put it in for a long period of time until the results finally hit you. Instant gratification is not a thing. And if you've been conditioned to that because you're scrolling on social media, you're scrolling on Reels, you're scrolling on TikToks, YouTube Shorts, whatever it may be, and you're used to instant gratification, right? Amazon next day delivery, Amazon same day delivery, Amazon 2-hour delivery, right? Instacart. We want everything to happen instantly. And alhamdulillah, some of these things do happen instantly. Hey, I'm not complaining that Amazon has 2-day delivery or same-day delivery. If I run out of protein powder, I get it the next day, no problem. But I'm usually proactive and I just order it before I run out because I hate running out and then like being stranded even for a couple hours. So look, I'm not trying to say, oh, I'm above instant gratification, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? I'm willing to put in the work on different areas of my life until I get the result, even if it takes me time. And part of what allows me to do that is enjoying the process. We're going to talk about that in the solution. We're going to talk about habits, right? But it's so important that you have the right mindset towards these things. And when society is going one way, instant gratification, haram, sins, being unhealthy, being unsuccessful, complaining, being a victim, do the exact opposite. Be proactive, be a champion, be successful, have faith in Allah, avoid sin, avoid negative temptations, eat healthy, be healthy, work out, be a champion, crush it every single day, while everybody else is being a loser and a victim. Why? Because guess what? Of course, I feel bad for 90% of society, 95% of society who's out there just losing, being a victim, whatever. But the only way I can help those people is by inspiring them, by being the best leader and example I can be within myself. And that's not the only reason. I do it for the sake of Allah first and foremost, and I try to keep that at the forefront of my intention at all times, right? So I said Bismillah before this video, and I want this video to be an act of ibadah for me to share that da'wah, to be a champion with you. Da'wah means invitation. I'm inviting you to be a champion in every area of your life by being an action taker instead of a procrastinator and not falling into these stupid beliefs and limiting excuses that you may have given yourself. We're going to talk about that point very, very soon. But yeah, so will everybody else be a loser? Be a winner, and you will bring some of those people with you. Others will like hate on you, whatever, but you just cut those people out because you gave them a chance. They didn't come around, whatever. Just like with Islam, right? Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, even one of his sons didn't jump on the ark, even when it was raining. So even though he grew up in the house of a prophet, subhanAllah, he was still a disbeliever. That was Allah's qadr for him. But alhamdulillah, his other kids were pious, mashallah. And I think, there was another example in the same example I'd seen where, there are people, like for instance, you look at some of the Sahaba, right? There were so many bad people who became the best Muslims, like people who wanted to kill the Prophet ﷺ before they became Muslim, and then they became Muslim, and they became, the greatest figures in Islamic history, right? So you got to look at like the Sahaba and look at those examples and decide, who do you want to be? Do you want to be somebody like Prophet Nuh alayhi salam's disbelieving son, the one who saw clear signs yet still decided to be, ignorant and arrogant and stupid and make giant mistakes? And I don't even want to use the word stupid because that's disrespectful. But he's an example in the Quran of somebody who was ignorant and arrogant, right? Pharaoh, right? Same thing. Oh, and that was the example too. Prophet Musa alayhi salam was born, under the rule of the Pharaoh, and he became a prophet, right? So like, look at the different examples and decide, who do I want to be like? Do I want to be like the Sahaba, these winners who were men of character who crushed in every area of life? Same thing with our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like, think about all the amazing things that our Prophet did and how much he had on his plate, yet he did it all. we can't necessarily expect ourselves to be at that level, but we should strive for that level instead of striving to be a loser or falling into these victim-like stupid mentalities. Like, do you think the Prophet ﷺ was procrastinating on things? No. He was taking action every single day to be the best Muslim he can be and to spread good throughout the dunya and the earth, right? Both through the form of da'wah to Islam and through the form of like positive political things, doing right by his family, doing right by the people in his life, giving money to the poor, which again, all of these things are commandments in Islam, taking care of his body, practicing portion control. Like, just look at the hadiths. Like, that's all you got to do, right? And then surround yourself with the right people in this life too. So anyways, if you're jaded from past attempts, back to the original point, don't let that become an identity for you. Like, even if you feel jaded, even if you feel demotivated, even if you feel sad that things didn't work out last time, hey, it's all good. You know what? Every day is a fresh day. You can move forward and you can crush it. But it's up to you to make that decision and stop blaming other things and making excuses. But instead, get up, try something new, try a different strategy, and stop giving up on yourself. But instead, be the best you can be. Get your reason greater than your resistance and go take action today and break that cycle, which again is point number 3. The third type of procrastination is in momentum with procrastination. If you've become in the habit of being a procrastinator, breaking that habit is simple, but it's not easy. It's hard, and I acknowledge that it's hard. And so that's why it's important to put the right mindsets in your brain, but put the right people in your environment too who will not tolerate those excuses from you and who will inspire you to be better, right? Such as myself, such as, you probably know other people in your life who are winners, who are crushing it, all that stuff. And alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed us, but Allah also puts us all through challenges. Like, how did I build the character attributes that I have today? Through the challenges that Allah gave me that at the time felt like calamities, and I questioned it, and I even cursed it, astaghfirullah. But you know what? Alhamdulillah, Allah brought me to my senses, and I was then able to leverage these challenges as the blessings that they are. The best lessons are taught through pain. And that's what takes us back to that point about reason versus resistance, is that when you go through pain, it gives you the greatest lessons and the greatest sense of motivation. The pain of dying in your 40s from a heart attack or diabetes and passing on these negative habits to your kids and watching your kids be overweight and self-conscious about themselves in high school and having energy issues and not being able to function without taking all your caffeine and not feeling good about your body when it's time to get intimate with your partner, or feeling disappointed when you see yourself in the mirror with a big belly, all that stuff. Those are all painful things. And the fact that they're going to get worse if you don't change is even more painful. But guess what? That pain is a blessing, because that pain finally gives you enough reason to overcome the resistance, as long as you don't laugh it off and minimize. Like, don't be like, ha ha ha, yeah, I have a belly, ha ha, look, it's so fat, ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha. No, stop laughing. Stop laughing right now. Don't throw away that blessing. Don't take that blessing for granted. The fact that you have pain in your life right now is a blessing. You should look at that belly and be like, dude, this is unacceptable. This is absolutely unacceptable. Astaghfirullah, right? There's actually a hadith. I'll have to pull it up. Or it's a story of, I think it was either Abu Bakr or Omar, radiallahu anhu, who saw a man with a belly. No, it was Omar ibn Khattab, I'm pretty sure. And he saw a man with a belly and he said, what is this? Like, just like straight up, like holding up accountable, like, what is this? And the man says, oh, it's a blessing, ha ha ha. And he says, this is not a blessing, this is a curse. Verily, Allah hates the fat man. How crazy is that? Like, he actually said that. Like, it was either hates the fat man or hates the fat scholar. I'll pull it up and I'll put it in the caption. Because, like, this is crazy. Or I'll superimpose it on the screen. So, editor, if you're editing this right now, superimpose it on the screen, or I'll just put it in the caption below. But, like, what a crazy, concept to think about. Like, if you're sitting right now laughing, saying, ha ha ha, my fat belly is a blessing, ha 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 ha, look, I have abundance of food. Great. You have an abundance of food, but you're not practicing portion control, which the Prophet told us in the hadith that verily the son of Adam, and I'm actually paraphrasing this, so I'm going to put it in the thing below as well, but it's like just a couple morsels of food is sufficient for the stomach of the son of Adam. And if he needs to fill himself 1/3 with food, 1/3 with water, 1/3 to save room for his breath. Again, I'm paraphrasing it, so I'm going to attach the real thing here just to make sure I get it right. But like, that's how we should be eating, is not like 110% food like a lot of us do, where you eat like 10 plates of curry and then you wash it down with ice cream and soda and gulab jamun and like tea with like tons of sugar and milk and all, and high fat milk and all this other crazy stuff that people eat. And then you wonder why you're fat and why you're not happy and why you don't have energy, and you wake up feeling groggy and terrible, and you can't focus during Fajr, you can't focus during Isha, you procrastinate on your prayers, you have a bad mindset in every area of your life. And I'm not saying that you're this bad, but there are plenty of people who are this bad, and this is what we're trying to change in the Ummah every single day. Like, why do we have a culture of eating oily foods and sweets when we could have a culture of eating healthy foods and not procrastinating and not making excuses? And you'll talk to other Muslims and you'll be like, yeah, I used to be fit, but then I got really busy with work, had a kid, and now I don't have time. You know what happens when you get married? You know what happens when you have a kid? You know, we don't have time, haha. And they're like, oh yeah, I don't have time either, haha. And everybody sits around laughing about how they don't have time. What a terrible excuse. There's another hadith, take advantage of 5 before 5, I'm going to paraphrase it, but I'm going to attach it here. My editor's going to superimpose it here. But basically, your health before your illness, your youth before your old age, your free time before your work, your life before your death, and I can't remember what the fifth one was, but it's the 5 before 5 hadith, and we'll attach it right here on the screen or in the caption below. But basically, like, this is a very important hadith, and so don't sit around just laughing off, all the different, negative things you may be doing inside of your life, but it's time to actually take your life seriously and be the best Muslim that you can be across all areas of life, both deen and dunya, okay? So if you're in momentum with procrastination right now and you're surrounding yourself with other procrastinators, it's time to break that and surround yourself with some winners and put people in your environment who inspire you and hold you accountable to be better. This is going to make a massive change in addition to absorbing these different mindset changes. Like, look at me. I could have easily said, oh yeah, I'm sick. I'm still coughing. My nose is still stuffy. My voice still isn't on. I'm not going to do this video. But I was like, no, I need to do this video because my resistance is greater than my resistance. My resistance is that my voice might hurt right now. The real cough comes out now. My voice might hurt right now. And editor, keep that one in because I want them to hear that even though my voice hurts, this message is so important to me to share with you today that my resistance is greater than my resistance. I'm still sharing it with you today. Why? Because this message means everything to me because of how it's changed my life and how it's changed the lives of my clients and how it's going to change your life and how I see people falling into these stupid habits of procrastination. The stupidest habits, they delay their whole life. They spend decades procrastinating on their health and fitness, and one day they wake up in their 50s with every health care that you can imagine. High blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, all that stuff. And they're on meds for all of them. Are like, oh, it's okay. I'm in my 50s. I should be taking meds. Ha ha ha. No, you should be taking care of your health. And then if you still have the problem, then take meds. It's kind of like, if you have low testosterone, are you just going to get on injections right away and get on testosterone replacement therapy? Or are you going to do everything you can to naturally maximize your testosterone? Like, there's like supplements you could take, like vitamin D, zinc, magnesium glycinate, zinc picolinate, right? D-aspartic acid, ashwagandha, like all these natural supplements you could take to boost your natural testosterone and get, 7 to 8 hours of sleep at night and lift heavy weights and eat a clean, proper diet with enough protein and like healthy fats, but in moderation and complex carbs instead of sugar, and watch, excuse me, how your blood work improves and your testosterone improves. You don't have to get on these, medications that have side effects such as testosterone replacement therapy or cholesterol meds or whatever else you're taking. Like, when people say, oh, it's okay, I'm on meds, whatever, alhamdulillah, it cured my disease, these meds. No, you're not anticipating the side effects of these meds and the fact that you haven't solved the root cause. It's kind of like, imagine that you have like this giant gash wound and you put a Band-Aid over it, which is great to treat it temporarily, but then you keep going and doing whatever's causing this gash wound. Well, guess what? The wound is never going to heal. You have to solve the root cause and stop whatever's causing this gash and actually nourish yourself and heal and recover. I'm trying to think of an analogy on the fly, but the point is let's say that you're wasting money on something that you're not using. Like, let's say you have a subscription to something that costs like $5,000 a month, right? And it's giving you no value, and you keep saying, oh, it's okay, I'll just patch it by making more money. But you don't cancel the subscription that's costing you $5,000 a month. It's stupid. You need to fix the root cause of the issue, okay? So hopefully that analogy made sense. Let me know if you have questions in the comments. All right, so let's talk about the fourth cause of procrastination, which is limiting beliefs around time, energy, money, etc. Okay, so the most common excuse I hear is either now's not the right time, I have a vacation coming up, I have this coming up, I have this coming up, I have this coming up, I gotta wait till this, oh, it's busy season right now, blah, 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 or I don't have time, okay? Well, guess what? When are you ever gonna have time? Guess what? You're not gonna get any less busy, you're only gonna become busier. Like, guaranteed, you're gonna get more busy. Different things will come up in your life. The more unhealthy you get, the more tired you'll be, the longer it'll take for you to get things done, the more busy you become, right? Things are not gonna automatically fix themselves if you don't change. So you have to find a way while you're busy. In fact, flip the script and say, hey, you know what? The fact that I'm busy is not an obstacle. It's a blessing because it's going to give me the reference experience of how to fix this while I'm busy so that when I have more energy, because I took care of my health, now I get things done faster, which means I have more time, which means now it's going to get even easier because I pushed myself to build the habits when it was hard, when the conditions were ideal, when I was traveling, whatever. And now, guess what? It's that much easier now that I've gotten past that initial, sticking point that I had. And now I'm in a place where I need to be successful. And I've had so many people, and I'll have people like who decide that they want to do my coaching, and some of them say, hey, you know what? I have all this stuff coming up, but you know what? I'm going to do it now because I need to do this now. My resistance is greater than my resistance. Boom. They come in, they crush it, and at the end, when we do their testimonial, or we at least review if they're not comfortable publicly sharing their testimonial, which, a lot of us as Muslims, we're very private about things, especially like a lot of us, there's a lot of Muslims who don't necessarily want to share, but alhamdulillah, some of the people have been generous enough to help share their message and their results with others. But when we're doing that review at the end, nobody ever says, hey, I regret starting when things were hard. At the moment, they might regret it because they're like, oh man, this is hard. But once they've pushed through it, they're like, dude, I feel like a champion now. I'm so glad I did this when it was hard because it's going to get easier. Like I have a client right now. He's gotten hit with 3 calamities since we started, but you know what? He's still showing up every day and he's struggling and it's hard. But I've worked with other guys like him, and once they make it through that hard period at the beginning, they're so glad they started. Or I have other guys who they're, kind of pickier eaters. So it takes me, a whole 3 to 4 weeks to get them on a menu of foods that they like versus most people, we get it within the first 1 to 2 weeks. They're locked in with nutrition, no problem. They're enjoying it. But some people are very picky eaters. So none of them regret the fact that we spent that time once we spent the time. It's hard while you're going through it, but once you've been through it, and now for the rest of your life, you have a menu of delicious, healthy foods that you can eat for the rest of your life that you truly enjoy, that get you fit, healthy, make you have great energy, all that stuff. Do you think any of them regret it? Absolutely not, right? Had another guy, he almost, he almost didn't do the program because he was going to travel, like he had like a bunch of weddings during the summer, all that stuff. Guess what? Just posted his testimony on my page, lost 21 pounds in 4 months, got to 8.5% body fat, shredded. You can see a video of him doing bicep curls. You can see how shredded he is. And, mashallah. And he almost didn't do it because he had all this travel coming up. He was dealing with a bunch of like different stuff at work. But you know what? He stuck through it. He made it happen. And if you watch his testimonial, he's like, yeah, man, I'm so grateful I went through this process with you. Instead of being like, oh yeah, I regret starting when I had 3 weddings to go to during the summer and I had to travel a bunch and I was really busy with work. No, he said, you know what? I'm grateful I was able to do this process. And I'm sure that part of what he's grateful for is the fact that he was able to learn how to do this while traveling, which means, guess what? In the interview too, he says, hey, I'm traveling tomorrow, but you know what? I'm going to be able to maintain for the next month and a half that I'm traveling. And then from there, I'm going to get back and we'll keep going hard, right? So you build these amazing reference experiences, but you have to change your mindset. You can't be in the mindset of, oh, the conditions aren't ideal, therefore I will not start, because the conditions will never be ideal. Something will always come up. Ramadan comes up, then it's Eid, then it's summer, then it's weddings, then it's travel, then it's busy season, then it's holidays, then it's the new year, then it's this, then it's that. And different things are going to come up and you're going to wake up 20 years later and be like, dude, I never took action at all. I should have just started when I was young. Because the thing you're not realizing is that your youth is the thing that you're wasting. And yes, I know, even if you're 50, even if you're 40, well, guess what? It's even harder when you're 60, 70, right? So you might as well start now when you're 50, and it's okay. You should have started when you were 30 or 40, but that's okay. You should have even started when you were 20, but it's all good. The best time to plant the tree is yesterday. The next best time is today. But the worst time to plant it is tomorrow or 20 years from now, because guess what? That time's going to pass anyway. So you're going to spend that time procrastinating, becoming deeper in this habit of procrastination. Your pain and problems becoming worse, or you're going to solve it and you're going to get better and you're going to fix it. You're going to feel like a champion. And the only regret you're going to have is that you didn't start 6 months earlier, 6 years earlier, 60 years earlier. That's the only regret you're ever going to have. And listen to any of my testimonials. That's what they all say. Even, the guys in their 40s who work a lot, who have kids, who all that stuff, they're like, dude, the only thing I wish I did was I started sooner, right? And then the last cause of procrastination is dishonesty with yourself. Excuse me. I will be honest with myself that I'm sick, but I will not let that stop me. So, anyways, actually, I'm just getting over the sickness, alhamdulillah, but there's that residual congestion. But anyway, so dishonesty with yourself. I think we tied into that with the whole minimizer thing, so we don't need to go into that point again, but yeah, if you're minimizing, your problems and your pains and just laughing it off like, haha, I have diabetes, haha, I don't like how I look, haha, I'm gonna die, haha. No, don't laugh at that, man. You gotta be like, dude, I'm gonna die if I don't fix this. Dude, I am not gonna accept not having energy. Dude, I am not okay with not liking what I see in the mirror. Let's change this today. Let's change this right now. I should have changed this 6 months ago, but you know what? Next best time is today. Let's go. Instead of, I might die in the next 6 months because I'm fat and blah, blah, and I have diabetes and heart disease and I already had a heart attack. But I'll just wait another 6 months because I'm traveling for the next week, but then I have this and I have that, so I'm just going to travel and not do it. No. You got to go right now, okay? Like, I'm telling you, don't get that momentum of procrastination. How you do one thing is how you do everything. If you're hitting snooze on your alarm right now, I guarantee you're procrastinating other areas of your life. Tomorrow, don't hit snooze. Get up as soon as your alarm goes. Even if you didn't get enough sleep, trust me. Don't trade 10 minutes of low-quality sleep to keep hitting snooze for getting a head start on your goals for the day. I'm telling you, this is the biggest paradigm shift that I've learned that has helped me is don't hit snooze. The first decision you need to make in the day needs to be an empowered, proactive decision so that the dominoes of success start to knock over. The dominoes of doing what you need to do, taking action, not procrastinating, versus hitting the dominoes of procrastination by hitting snooze every single day. Do that and watch how you feel different tomorrow. Watch how your momentum changes, okay? So I've talked for a lot longer. I actually meant for this just to be a 15-minute video, but I guess I can't do anything for 15 minutes. I have to really go deep and thorough. And there's even more points I want to hit. I could go for 2 more hours talking about all that stuff, but I'm going to keep it digestible. So let's finish off with the solutions. So we also talk about the paradigm of habits, mindset, and environment and how that helps to shape your identity. So let's just talk about, we've talked about this before where your environment determines what is normal. If you're surrounded by a bunch of fat people who don't pray, who don't work out, who drink alcohol, who eat pork, guess what? You try to be a good Muslim, it's going to be very hard in that environment, and a lot of people even get pulled away from their deen and end up getting baby stepped into trying alcohol and then becoming a drinker, right? A lot of people, end up eating unhealthy food, procrastinating, doing all these terrible things, missing their prayers because you're hanging out with your non-Muslim friends who don't pray, who are like, why do you need to take a break to pray? Oh, you pray 5 times a day? Wow. Like, hey, it's work hours. Why do you need to take a break to pray? It's like, dude, come on. Like, people who don't understand, people who have the wrong norms, I mean, it's not going to be an environment for you to be successful. Versus, let's say you hang out with Muslims. Guess what? I've been on Zoom meetings before, and my client will say, hey, you know what? Maghrib just rolled in, Asr just rolled in. Is it cool if I go pray? Hey, no problem. Boom, 5-minute break. Or I've had times where, like, prayer time just rolled in. I was supposed to have a meeting. I'm like, hey, I need to pray. Can I push it back? Like last night, I actually had a meeting that I scheduled like right when the prayer time started. I told him, hey, I was actually still going to be on time for the meeting because the meeting was like 3 p.m. and it was like 2:55. I'm just like, hey, I'm just going to pray and I'm going to hop on. And they were like, actually, Maghrib just rolled in because they're in the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. Is it cool if we start at like 6:15, which is 3:15 my time? I was like, yeah, perfect. Right? So we're Muslims, so we're understanding. We move around those times for each other, so that becomes our norm. Or same thing like with our clients, right? If you're in my mastermind, you see guys who are meal prepping, who are lifting weights, who are doing stuff, even if they're in their 40s, even if they have kids, even, we even have a brother who's a single dad, mashallah, in his 40s. So even though he's taking care of his kids alone and he's working, he's a very successful professional, mashallah, he still hits his workouts. And he actually, like, I just make a minimum requirement of 3 workouts a week. This brother works out 6 days a week. Like, I started him off on, because when we were talking, I was like, okay, cool, you want to start with 3 or 4? And he's like, let's start with 5. Or I think he started with like 4 or 5, right? And then he's like, hey man, could you give me a workout to do on Saturdays too? I was like, sure, here's 6, right? So mashallah, he's crushing it. So my biggest thing for him is I need to make sure he doesn't overtrain versus most people, I gotta make sure they don't undertrain, right? So mashallah, you got guys who that's their norm. And guess what? That even inspires me. Like, I'm surrounded by Muslim brothers who have it harder than me, who are busier than me, who have, kids, who are married, who have all that stuff, who are older than me. And guess what? They're out there taking even more action than me, so that helps inspire me to be better, right? And then we also have guys who come in and they struggle, but you know what? Being surrounded by excellence brings them up to that level, right? And so, again, like, being surrounded by guys who are successful is going to help versus, let's say you hang out with a bunch of people who are like, oh yeah, I used to work out like 12 years ago, but now I don't, and now I'm fat. Look at this picture. I used to have a 6-pack in college, but now I'm like, 350 pounds, like, okay, great. Nobody cares what you did in college. Like, mashallah, okay, that's great. But what I care about is, what do you do today? So if I'm surrounded by people like that, I'm going to babysit myself up. Even last year, I was living with some very successful entrepreneurs, mashallah, but these guys were not on point with their health. And even I got baby stepped and I gained some weight, right? So I have to surround myself with more successful people. And that's another thing too, like, your environment will not always be ideal. Like, for instance, right now, I'm a business owner and I'm pushing some very ambitious business goals, alhamdulillah. Now, I live here in San Diego, and who are the people I mostly interact with? I mostly interact with my parents, my brother, and my clients, right? Now, alhamdulillah, my clients bring me up to a certain level, but like my parents, they're both, older, they're not in a position where they're trying to push their career goals because they're already settled in their career. And, my dad, he's thinking about retirement. My mom, she's doing her thing in her career, but my parents aren't like, okay, cool, we're going to scale our income by 3 times this year or whatever, right? So they're just chilling. They're more in like relaxation mode. So if I'm surrounding myself only with them, I'm going to get into relaxation mode and complacency with my business. And my parents are just in a different phase of their life, right? Versus me, I'm in that mode where I'm trying to just push these goals. So you know what? I'm a part of a mastermind called the Muslim Pioneers Mastermind, where I'm surrounded by really successful Muslims who are crushing it, absolutely dominating in their businesses. Why? Because it helps to elevate my standard, right? We've got guys like Shakir Hussain, if you know who that is, Aqib Ahmed, right? There's a lot of amazing brothers in this group who are inspiring me to be better every single day. And some of these guys watch my content too. Actually, all of them do. Well, most of them do. So if you're here right now, shout out to you guys, Muslim Pioneers Mastermind, mashallah, right? Now, I also listen to some non-Muslim, speakers like Bedros Keuilian, right? I actually watch a lot of his videos that really inspire me, or like Patrick Bet-David, right? These guys really inspire me. And so I'll watch their videos and listen to their videos to absorb, new mindsets and ideologies about success and hard work to keep my standards high, so I don't end up falling into, my dad's, mindset. And it's not that my dad has a bad mindset for his age. Like, he's 60, mashallah. So he's not like at 60 years old, if you already had a good career, mashallah, you're not going to be in a position where you're like, okay, cool, it's time to start a business and scale it by 3x every single year. No, he's like, cool, I'm doing really well in my company, alhamdulillah, let's get ready for retirement, all that stuff, right? So if I'm in that mindset as a 28-year-old, that's going to destroy my business, right? So you got to surround yourself with the right people. So your family may not be like let's say your wife or your husband has a really fast metabolism, so they can eat whatever they want and they stay fit, so they don't have any health problems, but you have a slow metabolism, and so you're trying to get in shape, but they're always eating whatever they want, but you're like, hey, I gotta eat healthy. Well, it's not that they're wrong. They're healthy and they've been blessed with a fast metabolism, mashallah. But you have to be able to surround yourself with other people who were struggling with the slow metabolism, who are able to fix it and who are able to eat healthy, so that those people can inspire you. So it doesn't mean the people around you are wrong. They just might be right for them, but wrong for you. Even within healthy eating, right? Like I can't eat broccoli because broccoli makes me super bloated and gassy and kills my energy levels. And it's a net negative for me because I get all bloated. Versus green beans are amazing for me. Versus you might have somebody else who doesn't like green beans who does amazing on broccoli. So just because something's right for one person doesn't mean it's wrong for the other. So just put yourself in an environment though where people have the mindset that you're trying to have for yourself, and that's going to help you to build that mindset. Your habits are a product of your mindset. Your results are a product of your habits, and your results and your environment will then reinforce that identity of who you're becoming. So we've talked about that in depth in other videos. It's already like almost 45 minutes, so I'm going to end it there. But I hope that this was educational, inspirational for you. Inshallah, if you have any questions, drop a comment. Let's stop procrastinating. And again, if you need any other help, I'm always here to help. So please share this video with others. May Allah make this video a means by which others are able to break the chains of procrastination across all areas of Deen and Dunya. And inshallah, I'll see you in the next video. Let me know if you need anything else in the comments. Assalamu alaikum.